93, 93, 93. Oh shit, I'm still recovering. What's good, what's good? I'm still recovering. I'm not at 100% yet. Still recovering. Hopefully everybody's good. And if you're not, hopefully you will be better by the end of the live stream. Like, today doesn't even feel like a Monday. I never even made it to the bed. That's just how crazy it got. I never even made it to the bed. Like, as soon as I got off live, it's like I passed out right on the floor. I passed out right on the floor. And I guess I woke up with a hangover. Again, I have to get used to this. I have to get used to it. But it was a great experience, nonetheless. So now I want to talk about energy vortexes. An energy vortex is like a portal, right? So you can say we are walking energy vortexes because we all have an aura. You can say the aura is a manifestation of the chakras, right? So whatever is going on in the chakras, you can say that creates what we call the aura. So that's why I say, yes, we have seven chakras, but the seven chakras are, it's really one chakra expressing itself in seven different ways. So that one, this is what we call the aura, right? Your aura is a combination of the seven expressions of the chakras. And this is what people respond to. This is what people react to. It's not really about the physical. It's always about what's going on the subtle levels. It's what people can't see. So we let the mundane people get caught up in the physical. We let the mundane people get caught up in the illusions. We let the mundane people get caught up in Maya. However, once you enter into the occult and you start experimenting with the hidden forces, with the hidden realities, you come to the realization that it is through the manipulation of the subtle forces, it is through the manipulation of the hidden forces that actually transforms your reality. So you no longer become, or you are no longer a vain person, right? Because you don't take anything on face value, because you know nothing is to be taken on face value. So once you come to the realization that nothing is meant to be taken on face value, that you actually have the ability to manipulate, you can say, the entirety of your reality. Well, what's up, Chief? Yeah, we back in here, 93. Oh, this is that shit was crazy. It don't even feel like Monday. It don't even feel like Monday. I'm like, what day is this? I woke up, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. When we come to the realization that we are able to manipulate all areas of our life that we call the 12 houses or the 12 zodiac, right? Because, for example, the first house is the house of Aries, which is the house of image, right? And each of the 12 houses, is ruled by a particular zodiac sign. But we understand that each zodiac sign contains 30 degrees. So your first house or any house is not just ruled by a particular zodiac sign, it's also ruled by a particular degree. And this is what most people overlook. So for example, your first house may be ruled by Gemini, So you can say you have the image and the personality of a Gemini, right? But we understand that every zodiac sign contains 30 degrees. So a 15-degree Gemini is going to be different than a 29-degree Gemini, which is going to be different than a 10-degree Gemini, which is going to be different than a 1-degree Gemini, even though these are all contained within those same 30 degrees, right? Because we know we can further break down the 30 degrees into 10 degrees each, called the three decans. So, for example, 15 degrees Gemini will represent the second decan of Gemini, otherwise known as the Nine of Swords. See, the degrees allow us to activate the tarot. So, you see, when you correlate the degrees, it can take you to a particular tarot card. And every tarot card, as we understand, represents one of the 10 Sephiros. So as I just mentioned, the Nine of Swords, 15 degrees Gemini takes you to the Nine of Swords. The Nine takes you to the ninth Sephira of Yesod, which is ruled by the moon, which represents your sexual foundation. All right? So now, you have 29 degrees Gemini, the first house. So, well, no coincidence there, huh? No coincidence there that I just so happen to be talking about Gemini. So as the example, 15 degrees. What's up, Tim? Much love to you. All right. So in the example of 15 degrees Gemini, which takes you to the Nine of Swords, the Nine takes you to Yesod on the Tree of Life or the Kabbalah, which represents our sexual foundation. So now you will look at your image as, okay, my image is for me to express my sexuality. So now we're going a step beyond the Gemini. So of course you will have, you could say, the personality of the Gemini, but you could say your personality will be more based on your sexual foundation versus if it was the first decan of Gemini or the third decan of Gemini. So you can say, though that particular second decan has a unique expression, which is different than the first decan and it's different than the third decan. Now, if it's the first deacon, right? Hold on. If it's the first deacon, that will take you to the Eight of Swords, which then takes you to Hada or Mercury. So you can say the most communicative, or the Gemini that likes to, you can say, talk a lot. The Gemini that loves communication, you could say that's more so captured within the first deacon. So the first deacon would be a lot more communicative, a lot more expressive in their communications and their expressions than the second or the third. Then if your Gemini is the third deacon, that takes you to the Ten of Swords. And we know the 10 takes you to Malkuth, which then takes you to the earth plane. So you can say the most earthy Geminis is the third deacon. So the third deacon will have a more earthly expression, right? Because it takes you to Malkuth. So you can, that's the most material. That's the most materialistic. So you see, even though it's all within the same expression of Gemini, depending on which deacon the expression lies in will determine, you could say, further attributes. So you see, that gives you further information than just saying, okay, well, you know, my ascendant is Gemini, or my sun sign is this, my moon sign is this. See, once you actually dig into the expressions or the numbers, the degrees will take you to a particular tarot card, which takes you to a particular Sephira. It also will take you to a particular path. So if we look at the particular path of Gemini, for example, Gemini is a path between Teberif and what is called Bina, the Hebrew letter Zayin. So you see, now we're going even deeper. Bina represents Saturn. So the whole expression of Gemini is a combination of the Sun and Saturn. The Sun takes you to the number 1. Saturn takes you to the number 8. Now that's the 18. The 1 and the 8 gives you the 18. 1 plus 8 gives you the 9, which takes you to Mars. The Hebrew letter Zayin represents a sword. What's up, Keenan? 93, 93, 93. Zayin is represented as a sword, and the sword can be a representative of justice. The sword can also be a representation of the phallus. right? It all depends on, what angle you're looking at it as, or what angle you're looking at it from, right? So you see, we didn't just took a degree, 15 degrees Gemini, and we didn't just took it to a tarot card, then we took it to a particular Sephira, then we took it to a particular path, then we took it to a Hebrew letter. Then Gemini also, in the major arcana, takes us to the Lover's card. So we took it from the minor arcana, right, which is an 8, 9, and 10 of swords. Then we take it to the major arcana. And the major arcana takes us to the Lover's card. And we know originally the Lovers, before it was called the Lovers, it was called the Brothers, which takes us to the story of Cain and Abel. That's the twin soul. So again, before we romanticize it and made it the Lovers, it was originally the brothers, taking us back to, again, the difference between those who are followers of Cain and those who are followers of Abel. Because you can say if you are a follower of Abel, once Abel was sacrificed, the replacement for Abel was Seth. So the first Christ actually was Seth. Before Jesus came along, the actual first Christ was Seth. Then you had the followers of Cain, right? What's up, Tangela? Greetings, greetings, greetings. So you see, we're getting all this information from just a degree in a zodiac sign. So now imagine applying that to the entirety of your natal chart, all 12 of your houses. Then you break down all 10 of your planets. So you see, you got a whole library within your own natal chart. So you see, the more degrees you open up, you got a whole entire library. That's why the tarot is a book. That's why it's called the Book of Thoth. Because you see, you're opening up entire chambers, just knowing your degrees. And this is why it's so important to know these things by heart. So you see how I was able to open up these chambers, because I have all this committed to memory. So then I'm able to take these things and, create new paths and come to my own personal conclusions, because I'm not relying on anybody else's expression, because I have my own personal expressions. Just like you will have your own personal expressions, the more and more intimate you become with the occult. That's why I continue to give you examples of how deep this really goes. Like, you yourself are an entire library once you realize how deep the game goes. You are an entire book in and of yourself. Again, which is why I don't be recommending books, because you are a book, you are a library in and of yourself once you understand how to open up these chambers. So what greater book can you read than yourself, based on your own mathematics? So it ain't like you're making any of this stuff up because you feel like you're extra special. You're really just decoding your degrees. Everybody has degrees, but it's up for you to decode it. It's up for you to give it meaning. It's up for you to come to an understanding of, what library do I come from? Man knows not by being told. Man must become what he knows. Exactly. This is how you come to the realization of who and what you really are, because you see, your library is already preserved within you, because your degrees do not change. What's up, Ross? What's going on with you? What's going on with you? Your degrees do not change. Now, of course, it gets more advanced because you can get into your progress chart. So you can say your natal chart represents your foundation, right? That's your library. You can say that's your stabilized library, right? That's a library that does not change. Then once you go into your progress chart, that's your living library. That's you can say this is your living library, because it is changing. Your progress chart changes daily. So you have your natal chart that doesn't change, but you have your progress chart that actually changes. Just like you have the transits that are always changing. So you can say that's the outer library. You got your inner library, like your Akashic records. Then you have the outer library, which is you decoding the transits, what's going on around you, what's going on in the world. So that's why you start with yourself. You start with your natal chart. You start with the stagnant chart, right? That doesn't change. And once you understand how to decode your stagnant chart, then you begin to decode your living chart that's constantly changing. And once you're able to decode your living chart, now you're able to take on the transit so that you can understand what's going on in the world. And again, this is why people hire astrologers to do these things for them, because I'm not saying any of this stuff is easy to do. Of course, this is not going to happen overnight. You see, it takes time to memorize these things. Then not only do you have to memorize it, you have to personalize it. And again, this ain't something that's going to happen overnight. You know, it takes years, right? But once you got it, you got it. You're able to, there's nothing you can't decode. There's nothing you can't break down because, again, everything can be broken down to a number. Everybody has a name. So every name could be broken down to a number, which then takes you to a planet, which would then take you to a zodiac sign, which would then take you to a sephira, which then takes you to a path, which then takes you to a Hebrew letter, so on and so forth. So you see, everybody is living libraries. It's up to you how you choose to decode it, right? So if a person name is Chad, for example, CHAD, that's letters. Every letter has an attribute. If we take it to the supreme alphabet, CHAD, see he Allah divine, see he Allah divine. See as in sight, clarity. He as in he, like it's a masculine name. Allah, which is the true name of God. What's up, K? Peace 93. Then divine, Allah divine. See as in divine sight. He, being able to see from your third eye. So that's third eye vision, right? See or clarity of he, clarity of yourself, self clarity, Allah divine, the divinity of Allah. Allah is another name for God. Do you see your divinity, your inner divinity? So it's basically having clear sight of your inner divinity. That's what Chad means. If we take it to the supreme mathematics, having clarity of your divine inner being, which is Allah. Allah is a divine self within. And once you have clarity of that divine self within, so morbid climb, you can understand what's going on outside of yourself, 93. So then if we break down the actual letters, CHAD, C is the third letter, H is the eighth letter, A is the first letter, then D is the fourth letter. So if we add all that up and reduce it to a single digit, what do we get? So it's 8 plus 3, which gives us 11, which then breaks down to 2. Then you add that 2 to 1, which is A, which gives you 3. And you add that 3 to the 4, which is D. 3 plus 4 gives you 7. And we know 7 is the holy number. 7 takes you to Neptune. That's the number of spirituality. So the same way we just broke down Chad with the supreme alphabet, right? The same way we just broke down Chad, you see it takes you directly to the number 7. So you see like, oh, so your divine inner sight. So that's the same way of saying the number 7. It takes you right to Neptune. It takes you right to a spiritual being. So you see, it depends on what tools you want to use based on how deep you want to go into the occult. So you see, you're able to, there's nothing you can't decode. There's nothing you can't do. Everything is a living library. It all depends on how deep you want to go into the chapters, you can say. So if everybody is a book, it depends on how deep you want to go into the actual chapters. And we know most people take things on face value. So most people are only looking at, you can say, the cover of the book. Most people are only looking at the cover. They're not even going into the actual chapters. But the only time people go into the actual chapters is when you get to actually know a person, right? I'm just looking at the little cat. Right, it's a little kitty over here. So when you begin to know a person, that's where you begin to decode the chapters. But you see, without even knowing a person, you just know their divine name. That's why everybody has a name. So you see, those attributes is based on your name. Now, of course, you can say every Chad is different, right? But you have the basic foundation of what the name represents. So when you decode the name, it's like you are decoding the nature of a person, right? Right? Allah you master. Exactly. 121, 12, 5, power true. There you go. See, exactly. There's nothing you can't decode once you understand the language of mathematics. So it starts with the numerology. The numerology gives you the attributes to the numbers or the supreme mathematics. Just like 7 is a number of God. So in the supreme mathematics, 7 takes you to God. Just like 7 is the letter G. In the supreme alphabet, it's G. And G represents God. Again, and we're not talking about it from a religious sense. It is you knowing who and what you are. So God, you can say, knows what he or she is. That's what makes God a creator. You cannot create without coming to the realization that you are, in fact, a creator. A creator cannot create if they don't acknowledge themselves as a creator, right? You must acknowledge yourself as a creator, right? Once you acknowledge yourself as a creator, that's what makes you creative. An artist cannot create art until they realize that, oh, I can indeed express myself artistically. Once you understand your artistic expression, then you can express it, but you must acknowledge it first. That's why everybody has talents, but then you also have hidden talents, talents that you have yet to discover about yourself, but you already have access to, but you have yet to discover it about yourself, right? So there's talents you know that came to you naturally, but then you also had talents that you had to work for, that you had to strive for. That's why you can say the occult represents a talent that you have to strive for, because you see, it takes time for you to come to the realization due to memorization. That way you take the occult with you everywhere you go, right? Hey, what's up, man? All right, got the little kitty right there. What's up? All right. What's up? What's up? So the memorization is what allows you to take these things with you wherever you go. Because again, if you try to take a whole book of this information, you'll have a hard time flipping through these pages. But you can get to it and access it a lot quicker when you memorize it. That's why it's good to memorize things, because you can quickly access these things, without having to, be confused. Okay, well, what page is this on? What page is that on? Right? So hopefully, this gave you some insight as to what you're truly capable of, because most of this stuff remains hidden. The average person will never understand these things because it was never meant for them to understand. It was meant for you to understand. So the more you understand who and what you are, again, that's what makes you a ruler. It makes you a ruler because you are even interested in subtle forces. You are interested in these things at all because you are a ruler. That's what makes you a king. That's what makes you a queen. So a king or a queen is one who was able to decode the subtle realities of nature. There's nothing you cannot decode. That's how we were able to tame wild beasts. That's how you had human beings riding elephants. You had human beings riding lions, because they understand the secret nature of a lion. They understand the secret nature of an elephant, and so on and so forth, right? Once you understand the hidden nature of a thing, now you have control over that thing. Now, right, if you try to approach a thing directly, like if you just go to the jungle and you try to tame a lion, you're going to have a hard ass time, because why the fuck would a lion submit to you, right? But if you understand the hidden nature of a lion, the lion has no issue submitting to you. That's why even in the Bible it says Adam had to name everything, because Adam had access to their divine names. So again, we don't take that on face value, like he was going around and say, okay, well, that's a lion, that's an elephant, that's a monkey. It's not really talking about he's going around pointing things out. He just had access to the divine nature of a thing. That's why you can say in the Bible it said everything had to submit to Adam. So all the angels, all the jinn, all the fowl of the earth, all the animals, everything submitted to Adam. Again, Adam just represents the atom, because we are all composed of atoms. And every atom has a nucleus. And that nucleus is connected to the source. So we are connected to the source because we are composed of atoms, and every atom has a remnant or essence of the source. It is as you say, you can take water from the ocean, but that water is still a part of the ocean. Even if you take the water away from the ocean, it's still a part of the ocean. You have a piece of the ocean within that cup. If you take a cup and you dip the cup into the ocean, you have separated the water from the ocean, but the water is still a part of the ocean, even though it's separated. This is what we call quantum entanglement. Once something has had an interaction with something else, it forever remains connected. That's what we are. So it doesn't matter if you are a million miles away from God, you can say, you are still God. It don't matter how far you are away from the source, you are still a part of the source. That's why you can never be lost. That's why I always talk about the devil. You can say the devil is the furthest thing away from God, but if you're able to understand the devil and you can understand, you can say the opposite of God, and you come to the realization that you are still a part of the source, you can never be disconnected from the source. There's no way you can be disconnected. So once you understand your opposites, once you understand your positive charge as well as your negative charge, there's nothing you can't comprehend, there's nothing you can't understand. But it's hard to do that when you only have access to 50%. Like, and it's easy to be, you could say, a worshiper of God. That's not hard to do. We grow up in religious households, right? So our challenge really is to understand the devil. That's why I always emphasize that, because that represents the challenge. That represents the adversity or the adversary. That represents your hidden qualities. That represents your hidden culture, right? So that's why everybody wants to stay away from the devil, but that's actually a piece of you because it's still connected to the source. So because that's people try to fool you. Okay, well, if you're over here, that means you don't have a connection to God. You can never not have a connection to the source because you are the source itself. So if you are the God within, that means you're also the devil within. And once we take it out of the religious sense, we know the devil just represents the Lord of the world or the Lord of the physical plane. You have the Lord of the spiritual plane that we call the God or the Allah or the monad. That's the ruler of the spirit world. But you're also the ruler of the Maya, which is the illusion, which is the physical world. So not only are you the ruler of the spirit world, you're also the ruler of the material world. Again, that's why everything's submitted to Adam. Because so that means Adam, just like the angels and the jinn, which represent the spirit world, but also the animals, which represents the material world. So that's why all of these stories are just codes for you to understand who and what you are. But when we take it on face value, we're going around thinking that it actually was an Adam and Eve, and the Garden of Eden is a real thing. These things are metaphors for you to come to the realization of who and what you are. So when we take these things on face value, what's up, Luciferian, Jesus lover? When we take these things on face value, that's how we get lost. And not lost that you can't be found. Just lost in the sense of you make it harder for yourself to comprehend who and what you are because you go seeking a God outside of yourself, or you go seeking a devil outside of yourself instead of bringing it within. So that's why I always emphasize the astrology, the numerology, the occult. That's just you're bringing all these attributes internal. You are internalizing these attributes because, again, you are the atom. You are the source. You are the first, just like you are the last. You are the alpha, but you're also the omega. So the alpha or the alpha particle represents the source or your divinity. The omega represents, you could say, your establishment. So if you are the alpha and the omega, that means you're God and devil. You are the Lord of the spirit world as well as the Lord of the material world. So the same way you can manipulate the spirits, you can manipulate the physical. Right? I struggled with this for a while. Abrahamic Abrahamic religion will easily trap your consciousness and looking for external things. And that's why, that's why I'm here. I completely understand that. Because their religion is all about control. Just the word religion itself means bondage. So the whole purpose of religion being created is to bond you, to bind you. from knowing who and what you are. Because, right, you're looking for a God, you're praying to a God, you're looking for something external, you're looking for forgiveness because you're a sinner. You see, they poison our consciousness to think like, okay, you gotta something like you gotta ask something outside of yourself for forgiveness. When you're just exploring the true reality of what you are, you make the decision as to do you want to go around knowing who and what you are, or do you place your value in material things? And again, that's the masses, that's the public. They place their value outside of themselves in materialistic things. What's up, Incognito? 93. All right. So when we understand the source of all these things, what created religion? Before religion, you had the occult. That's why the occult, you see, it don't matter what Bible story we read or what Quran story or what story from the Torah, they all come back to the occult because the occult predates religion. So religion just gave you a bunch of stories that preserves the occult. So the same way I just broke down the story of the Adam and Eve, every story can be broken down metaphorically so that you understand what's really being said. It's really talking about you. So the serpent in the Garden of Eden just represents your own kundalini. So Eve eating the apple from the tree of good and evil, that's you. Like, yo, you have knowledge of good and evil because, again, you are God and devil. You are good and evil. And you define what good is and you define what evil is. Meaning, if there's nobody around to enforce the law, what can you really call the law? Like, there's people that get away with crime every single day. Like, so, like, unless you get caught, anything goes, basically, right? Unless you get caught. If there's no police officers around, anything goes, right? But you know, when the police officer is around, you're going to be on your best behavior. But once they're gone, you're right back to who and what you are. Because you know who and what you are anyway. Like, yo, I'm the divine ruler. Can't nobody tell me what to do. We can submit to others, but you do so willfully. Just like you have to willfully submit to God. You have to willfully pray, just like you willfully submit yourself. But you still do that as a ruler. You're not operating from a slave mentality. You're operating from a kingly mentality or a queenly mentality. So even when you submit, you do so by your own will. Because you are good and evil. Good and evil is defined, you have to define it for yourself. What is good to one person may be evil to the next person. That's the whole thing. Good and evil is relative. There is no universal good and evil, it's all relative. So if it's all relative, that means you have to make definitions for your own life. Can't nobody else define, but that's what religion attempts to define good and evil. But that's for you as a ruler. You must define what is good for you, and you must define what is evil for you. It may be certain substances that you don't want to put in your body because it makes you feel evil. Evil as in imbalanced. Like, again, some people don't drink because it makes them feel imbalanced. Some people don't smoke because it makes them feel imbalanced. So you can say that's evil to them. But for somebody else, it makes them feel great. So again, it's not a universal definition, it's a personal definition. You must define what is good for you and what is evil for you. So once you know what's good for you and once you know what's evil for you, then that's how you balance your life. Like, okay, certain things I need to stay away from, and there are certain things that I can indulge in because you have defined it for yourself. You have personalized your life. You will not allow religion to define who and what you are. But again, that's what the masses do because the masses must be controlled because, again, they take things on face value. They don't know any of the secret codes or the hidden codes, the cheat codes, because it's not for them to know. So anybody who basically is against the occult is because it's not meant for them. It was never meant for them to have access to that knowledge. So that's why we don't force this on anybody. We don't try to wake nobody up. Because again, if people who turned off by this, people that don't comprehend this, it was never meant for them to comprehend, which is just fine. Because it was for you to comprehend it. It's for you to become the master of your reality. It ain't about them. You teach them by showing them. You don't have to, oh, you need to read this book, read this book. No, you are the book. You are the living manifestation of the occult. So if they watch your lifestyle, if they watch how you live and they watch how you move, and then they enter like, yo, how do you do that? Then you begin to reveal these things to them because they have observed you. It ain't about, okay, you need to read this. No, they are reading you. They're studying you. You are the living book. So you let the people study you. And then if they approach you wanting to know how you do what you do, then you begin to educate them if that's what they want. But if they don't want that, and again, some people, become admirers, but then other people become haters, right? Some people admire the truth, and some people hate the truth. And you got to let a hater hate, and let a person that admires the truth, you have to let them admire it. Like, oh, because they resonate with what you are manifesting because they see it within themselves. They just may not have an expression or a word for it. So you're just helping them to come to the realization like what you see in me is already within you. It's already something that's activated within you. You just may not know where to go with the look, and again, you just begin to educate. But it's only if they ask for it. You don't. There's no need to force anything on any, or anyone else, right? If each person decides their own morality, how can we live in a functional society? Because as you see, we're not in a functional society as is. Just look around at the world. Are we truly in a functional society? We're not. We're on the brink of war right the fuck now. People are talking about we're on the edge of World War III right now. So we're not in a functional reality because religion has defined things. And when we allow religion to define our reality, that's how we end up going to war because one person feels like they're right and another person feels like they're wrong. And then we go to war. Then we start killing each other. So we're not functional as is right now. Otherwise, the world would be very peaceful right now, but the world is not at peace now, is it? And the excuse is a religious excuse. It's an ideology because you have people trying to define what is right and you have people that's trying to define what is wrong. Now, if everybody did that for themselves, it would be different. Because again, it's not you're not defining what's good for anybody else. You're defining what's good for you. And you don't have to infringe on nobody else's free will. So that's the thing. That's how you have a functional reality. As long as you are not infringing on nobody else's free will, you will be able to function. That's what do what thou wilt represents. Do what thou wilt doesn't mean I just get to do whatever I want. Do what thou wilt means as long as I'm not infringing on nobody else's free will, then it can't be wrong. How can it be wrong if I'm not infringing on no one else's free will? Right? Because you're mastering your own will. You're mastering what is called your true will. And that's what the lima is. The lima is mastery of your true will. And your true will does not have to infringe on nobody else's free will. Because everybody has free will. And if you truly have a true will, you don't have to infringe on nobody's free will. Because you are the master of your own will. So anybody else, if they want to participate in what you're doing, they do so willfully and freely. That's why we don't have to force this on anybody. Because we respect free will. You respect a person who turns away from you. Like, okay, if you don't want to mess with me, then you don't have to. I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm not going to look at you as crazy. Like that's you have completely the ability to decide for yourself what is good for you and what is wrong for you. So you are respecting other people's free will by respecting your own true will. This is how you function. But again, the world will never be this way because everybody's not meant to be a ruler. Everybody's not meant to be a king. Everybody's not meant to be a queen. So that's why you have a small fraction of people ruling over the masses. That's why you have one pope, but you got a bunch of Catholics, right? One pope, a bunch of Catholics. One president, a bunch of citizens, right? Everybody's not meant to be a ruler. But I guarantee the pope understands the occult. I guarantee the president understands the occult. All the so-called rulers understand all of these things that I speak about. They may have their own personal understanding of what these things are, but they know it and they utilize it on a daily basis. just like you should, because it's for you to be a master of your own reality, because you are the ruler over yourself first and foremost, not over people. So you can say they use a cult for selfish reasons, because again, they're trying to rule over the people, right? You strive to rule over yourself. You become the master of yourself, meaning you don't have to rule over nobody. Again, if people want to fuck with you, they will fuck with you because they want to, willfully. You don't have to force anybody. You don't have to make anybody do anything because they would want to do it. Because again, they have been observing you, and they see something within you that they see within themselves, or they're trying to manifest in themselves, and you can allow them to do it by their own will, because now you're exercising your true will. You exercising your true will gives everybody the ability to access their free will. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, so I would say that's the daily manifestation, right? I'm wishing everybody the best. Be the master of your reality. Be the ruler of your reality, because that's what you was born to be anyway. That's why you're here. That's why you're interested in the occult in the first place, because you were meant to be the ruler. You were meant to be the sage of yourself first and foremost. And for anybody else who sees what you're doing and who admires what you're doing, then it's for you to educate them and allow everybody else to be whatever they want to be. Respect everybody else's lifestyle, because again, it really doesn't have anything to do with you, right? It really don't have nothing else to do with you, right? So I'll get at y'all a little bit later, you know. 93, 93, 93. We out this bitch.